Okay, are we ready to go? I'm just gonna double check, make sure there's nobody else waiting. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining me tonight for yoga. We'll go ahead and get started just sitting in a comfortable position. If you have a mat or you have a comfortable space, just come down. Maybe a comfortable cross-legged position. I'm just gonna move my feet down. All righty. So just grounding down, you can cross your legs if that feels good. Go ahead and just allow the hands to rest on the lap, palms facing up. Close your eyes. We'll just take a few minutes here to ground down and connect with our breath. So changing anything, just starting to be aware of our breath. So noticing how the breath is flowing in and out of your body. Is it fast or slow, deep or shallow?
Hi.
Becoming aware of it. And then all together, we'll slowly start to deepen and lengthen our breath. So taking a big, deep inhale breath. Feel the breath flow in through the nose, down the throat. Allow it to fill up the belly entirely. Exhale, release. Allow the belly to soften. Just allow all the breath to flow out through the nose. So we'll do that a few more times here. Big, deep inhale breath. See if you can make this one a little bit deeper, really filling up the belly. Exhale, let it go, breathing back out through the nose. Another big, deep inhale. Think of the tummy expanding like a balloon as you breathe in, filling up completely. Exhale, allow the belly to deflate and soften. And so we'll take about 5 more big belly breaths here. So feel free to move at your own pace. We'll take one more big inhale all together. So big, deep breath. Really sending the inhale deep into the body. Exhale, release. And just moving at your own rhythm here, keeping the eyes closed. Just tuning into our body, connecting with our breath. So go ahead and take one more deep breath here. Try to make this your deepest one yet. Big inhale through the nose. Send the breath deep down into the belly. Exhale, release. Let it go. And if you're ready, you can slowly open the eyes. From here, we'll stay in our seated position. We're just going to bring a little bit of movement into the upper body. So we'll go ahead and plant the left hand down. Big, deep inhale. Sweep the right arm up and over. Starting to open up through the side body here. Nice big stretch. And then we'll go ahead and move in the opposite direction, planting down the other hand. Opening up and reaching through the side body. Good, so we'll take that a couple more times to each side here. Just adding in a little sway back and forth. So if you want to move a little bit faster, a little bit slower than me, that's okay. Just go at your own pace. I'm starting to stretch everything out for our practice here. So let's take it over to each side one more time. And then we'll come back up to center, reaching tall. From here, we'll come into a little twist. So we'll bring the right hand across to the opposite knee and bring the other hand behind. So just coming into a little twist here. As far as feels good to twist the body, you can use your hand in front to kind of press off. Give yourself a little bit of leverage. I'm just holding here for one more breath. And then we'll take a deep inhale, sweep the hands back up, reach for the ceiling. Exhale over to the opposite side. Twisting now over to the other side. So bringing the back hand just behind your body. And from here, we'll turn back to center, reach up one more time. Big inhale breath. Exhale, hands to heart center. Good, you can release the hands by your side. We'll start to open up and stretch through the legs a little bit here. So just bringing the feet out wide. I'm just gonna tilt my camera down a little bit so I don't know if you can see my feet very good there. Might be a little bit better. Alrighty, so let's draw the legs out wide. Bring your feet as wide as feels good. And then just give the shoulders a little roll up, back, and down. Big, deep inhale. You can do a couple shoulder rolls here if that feels good. And then from here, your choice if you want to keep the upper body sitting up tall just as you are, or we can slowly start to walk the hands a little bit forward. If that feels good, go ahead and bring the hands forward. If not, you can just walk them back. So find a place that feels comfortable for you. And we'll hold and breathe into it. So this should feel like a really nice deep stretch through the bottom part of the legs here. So as we breathe in, think about sending your breath deep all the way down to the toes. So big, deep inhale. Exhale, let it go. Good, let's do that 4 more times here. Another big, deep inhale. Exhale, release. Again, breathe in, big breath. Let it go. If you want to come a little bit deeper for our last breath here, you can curl the hands maybe a little bit more forward. Maybe you want to rest your forearms onto the ground if you can come down that far. If not, that's okay. Just find a place that's comfortable. Let's take a big, deep inhale. Exhale, release. Now from here, we're just going to draw the legs in together. Let's bring the knees side by side and plant the feet on the mat. And then we'll give ourselves a big hug here. So just really rounding your back. You can interlock your hands in front of your legs here. Tucking the chin, give yourself a nice big hug. And release. Good, so next we'll turn over. We'll make our way into tabletop. So we did this one last week too. We'll do it a lot in our classes coming into tabletop. So anytime we say tabletop, we'll come onto hands and knees. So from here, we're just gonna wake up the back body of the spine a little bit. So we'll move through cat-cow. So round the spine, tuck the chin in here. This is cat. And then allow the belly to fall. Bring the chin up towards the ceiling. Open up into cow. Those should feel really good on the back body here. We're just gonna sway between cat and cow. So rounding the spine, tucking the chin in, cat. And belly drops. You can look up towards the ceiling here. Big inhale, cow. Exhale, back into cat. Inhale, cow. Good. So just feel free to move at your own pace here. Moving if you're going a little bit faster, a little bit slower than me, that's okay. And then we'll meet back in a neutral spine. So just coming back to our regular tabletop. From here, let's keep our right hand planted And we're gonna inhale and send the left hand up, reaching and opening up into a side twist. Feel like a nice stretch here for the chest and the shoulders. Let's hold here for one more breath. And release the hand back down. Take a breath in tabletop. And then we'll move into the other side. So planting down the opposite hand this time. Big inhale, sweep the fingertips up. Exhale into our side twist. And then from here, plant the hands back down. So this time we're gonna move through that again, but this time you have the choice if you wanna keep reaching your fingers up tall or if you wanna thread the needle. So I'll show you what that looks like here. Planting down our right hand, big inhale, send the left fingertips up. And then from here, I'm gonna thread the needle. So just bringing my hand underneath the body and across to the opposite side. You can bring your head or your cheek down to the mat there and just walk the front fingers up towards the top of the mat. If that doesn't feel so good, just come back to your side stretch there, reaching tall. So lots of different variations you can choose from. If you did thread the needle and that feels good, you can hold there for one more breath. And we'll come out of it, reaching back up, left fingertips reaching for the ceiling. Good, we'll bring both hands back down, and then we'll move through that on the opposite side. So ground down through the left hand, reach the right fingertips up. Choose to stay right here if that's a good stretch for you, or you can thread the needle by coming under and across with that hand. And then coming down onto the head or the cheek. You can reach the opposite fingers up towards the top if that feels good. And breathe. Big inhale breath. Exhale, let it go. Good, so from here we'll ground down into the left hand again. Press up and send the fingertips up towards the ceiling. And release back down to the mat. Good, so from here we'll move into a child's pose. So we'll bring the big toes together. Knees can be pretty wide here, as wide as feels good for you. Then we're just gonna sit the hips back onto the heels. Walk our hands out in front and slowly lower our head all the way down to the floor. Pressing back through the hands here. So this is called our child's pose. So anytime we're doing yoga, if you need a little bit of a break, you don't feel like doing what we're doing, you can always come into this pose. It's a really nice resting pose. So we're just gonna hold here and breathe for about 4 breaths. And so big inhale through the nose. Exhale, release. Another big, deep inhale breath. See if you can send the breath all the way down to the toes. Exhale, release. Move through the last 2 cycles of breath at your own pace. All right, so we'll slowly start to come out of child's pose here. So just walking the hands in a little closer to the body and press back up into tabletop. And then from here, we're gonna make our way into downward dog. So downward dog, we'll tuck the toes, press through the hands and send our hips up. So just take a couple breaths to settle into our first downward dog here. You can walk the feet out, maybe pedal the heels a little bit. That feels good. Bend the knees as much as you need to here. Let's take one more deep breath. And then from here, we're gonna make our way up to a forward fold. So you can walk your hands forward. Just bring the hands, the feet behind the hands. So walking our toes up, and we're gonna meet in a little fold here. So in our forward fold, you can bend the knees as much as your body is asking for here. Just allow the head to rest down. You can let the backs of the hands come onto the floor. Or if you want to reach for your opposite elbows, you can go ahead and grab onto the opposite elbows as we hold here. Maybe bringing a little sway in from side to side. And just check in with the neck and the shoulders. Make sure everything's relaxed as we're hanging here. So you should be feeling a nice stretch through the legs, through the low back, and then maybe give your head a shake yes and no here. Make sure you're not straining on the neck. Good. From here, if you're reaching onto opposite elbows, you can release your grip. We'll take a big, deep inhale breath, reach up towards the ceiling. And then we'll exhale back down, forward fold here. And we're gonna move through that a couple more times. So if you wanna grab onto opposite elbows, go ahead, or just let the hands dangle. Take a couple breaths here. And then we'll take a big, deep inhale breath, standing up, reaching tall. Whoops. I'm knocking pictures off my wall here. Reach up for the ceiling. Exhale, forward fold. Good, let yourself dangle here. We'll do one more time through that. Maybe grabbing for the opposite elbows again. And if you did grab onto opposite elbows, you can go ahead and release. And then let's sweep the arms up, reaching tall, coming up through standing. We'll exhale, hands through heart center. Good, now from here, we're just gonna fold forward. Let's plant our hands on the mat, and then we'll come back down into tabletop for a breath here. So we'll meet back together in our tabletop. Big inhale, long, slow exhale. And then from here, we're gonna bring the left foot forward. So we're just gonna step it forward to come between the hands. And if that feels like a pretty good stretch for you, you can just stay right here. If you do wanna come up, you can bring your hands on top of the knee. That can feel good. And then maybe just bringing that back knee or the back foot a little bit further away if you want a deeper stretch there. And so wherever you are in this one, we'll just hold and breathe. And this is low lunge. Good. And if you're holding your hands on top of the thigh, you can even sweep the hands up overhead, reach for the ceiling. Good. And let's hold here for 2 more breaths. And then we'll bring the hands forward, planting them back on either side of the foot. And from here, we're just gonna straighten the front leg. So just flexing the toes here. You can walk the hands back a little closer to your body if that feels good. We're sitting back the hips a little bit, stretching through that front leg here. So just bringing it as straight as feels good. If you want to keep it a little bend in there, that's okay. And this should feel like a nice stretch on the lower leg there. And then from here, we'll start to bend that front leg again. And plant the hands back down. Then when you're ready, just bring the knee back into tabletop. So meet back in tabletop. Maybe give the hips a little sway out here from side to side. And then we'll take our low lunge on the opposite side. So let's take the opposite foot forward this time, bring it between the hands. And if that's a deep enough stretch for you here with your hands resting on either side, stay right there. Or choose to come up, bringing the hands on top of the thigh if that feels good. You can always move the back knee or the back foot a little further back if you want a little bit deeper stretch. And from here, if you have your hands on top of the thigh and you want to choose to sweep the hands up overhead, go ahead and reach tall for the ceiling. Good. Big inhale breath. Long, slow exhale. Let's take one more cycle of breath here. Exhale, release. We'll bring the hands back on either side of our foot, and then we'll move into our little half splits on this side. So you might want to walk your foot a little bit more forward or bring the hands closer to the body, just flexing that front foot, and you should feel a nice stretch through that leg. Again, if you need to bend your knee here, no problem. Just find whatever feels good for you and hold into it. I'm just holding here for one more breath. And then whenever you're ready, we'll bring the hands back on either side of the front foot, and we'll bring our knee back into tabletop again. So from here, maybe give it a little rock, a little sway out. And then we're gonna move into what's called puppy pose. So for puppy pose, we'll try to keep our hips and our knees in line, so right where they are. And then just start to walk the hands a little bit forward here. So this is kind of like our child's pose that we did, only we're not going to sit the hips back. So just reaching the hands out forward. And if that feels good, stay right here. If you do want to come a little bit deeper, you can bring your head all the way down to the floor of the mat, just resting your forehead down. And we'll hold here for about 3 breaths. We'll slowly start to come out of puppy pose. So just walking the hands in a little bit closer to the body. Then we'll take a couple breaths here in tabletop. So big, deep inhale. Exhale, release. One more big, deep inhale. Exhale, release. So this time, whatever leg you started with for low lunge, let's go with the opposite leg first. So we'll step that foot between the hands on either side of that foot, and then we're just gonna lift up. We're gonna come all the way up this time into high lunge. So staying up off our back toes, reaching the fingertips up towards the ceiling. If you don't feel like going into high lunge, you can lower the knee and stay in your low lunge there. So whatever feels best for you tonight, low lunge or a high lunge. And if you're holding in high lunge, really reaching those fingertips up towards the ceiling. Let's hold for one more breath here. And then we'll lower the knee back down. Bring the hands on either side of the foot, and we'll come back to tabletop. Good, let's do that on the opposite side now. So bringing the opposite forward, opposite foot there forward, and then whenever you're ready, you want to reach up into high lunge, coming up off the back toes, reaching fingertips for the ceiling. Good. Really think about sending that deep inhale breath all the way down to the toes. Let's hold for one more breath. And release, lower that knee to the mat. Bring the hands back down and bring the knee back into tabletop. Good. All right, so from here, let's press the hips back. Come into downward dog again. Take a couple breaths here. And then when you're ready to make our way to a little fold here, just walk the feet forward, bringing the feet behind the hands, and then feel free to grab for the elbows again if that feels good, or just let your hands rest on the shins or towards the floor. And then from forward fold, we're just gonna sweep our way up into standing. So if you're grabbing onto the opposite elbows, you can release. We'll take a big inhale breath, reaching up, fingers all the way up to the ceiling. Exhale, hands to heart center. Good, release the hands by our side. I'm just gonna turn to face the front here. So we're gonna do a couple little balancing poses now. So if you were here last week, we did tree pose. So that's the first one we'll start with. So wherever you are, if you have a wall close by or even a chair, that could be handy for balancing. We'll start with grounding down through our left foot here. So ground down through the left foot, and then we're just gonna bring that right foot to the inside of the left. So I'm just resting my toe on the floor there and turning the knee out to the side. So this is a first variation. So if you want to come into that, you can bring hands to heart center. Or if you've done tree before and you want to go a little bit deeper, you can pick the foot up onto the calf. Or maybe it comes all the way up to the inside of the thigh there. So just find a variation that feels good for you. We'll square our hips towards the front here. Make sure we're kind of engaging our core. Bring hands to heart center. Or if you want to open up your tree, you can grow your hands up overhead. And we'll hold here for 2 breaths. Awesome. And release, bring hands back to heart center. Let's bring the feet back together. And we'll just give the shoulders a little roll back here. Take 1 breath at standing. And then we'll go into the opposite side now. So ground down through the other leg here. And then just turning the foot to come to the inside of that ankle. Can bring hands to heart center. So always start in our first variation here. And then if you do want to come a little bit deeper, just picking that foot up to the inside of the calf. Or maybe it comes up to the inside of the thigh if you've done lots of trees. Holding here. We'll take a big, deep inhale. Maybe exhale and grow your tree if that feels good. Awesome. 2 breaths here. Sometimes our trees sway and blow a little bit in the wind, and that's okay. Good. Go ahead, release. So bring the hands back to heart center. Bring the feet side by side. Maybe just step it out a little bit here. And roll the shoulders back. Take a big, deep inhale breath. Exhale, release. Good. So next we're going to move into, let's do dancer's pose. So this one, if you do have your wall nearby, maybe stand close to a wall, or if you have a chair, you can hang on to the back of the chair. I'm just going to use my wall here if I need it. So we'll go ahead and ground down through one leg, and we'll pick up the opposite foot here. So just roll that shoulder back, grabbing onto the foot. You can keep a nice bend in that standing leg. And then just go ahead and inhale, reach the opposite fingers up to the ceiling. So that's might be a pretty deep stretch already, so you can stay right here. If you sway a little bit, feel free to grab onto the wall, or if you have a chair in front of you, you can always grab onto that as well. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can always start to kick back into that hand that's reaching back, kick back through the foot, and bend that front knee and reach up. So no pressure to go in too deep, just find a place that feels good for you to hold and breathe into it. Let's take one more breath here. And we'll slowly start to release. Come back to center, let the foot go there. And then we're just gonna hang heavy, allow the upper body to come all the way down. Should feel really good for the back coming out of this one. Take a cycle of breath here in forward fold. Then when you're ready, we'll roll ourselves all the way back up. And we'll go into the opposite side. So I'm just gonna switch so I've got my wall here if I need support. So we'll ground down through that opposite foot. Go ahead and reach back for the other foot this time. So making sure we're keeping a little bend in our standing leg here. Inhale, reach the fingertips up and breathe. Anytime you need to use your wall or your chair out in front, go ahead. And if you do want to kick back a little bit deeper here, you can always kick back through the hand here, lengthening and opening. Big, deep inhale. Exhale, release. Let's hold here for one more breath. And we'll start to come out of it here. Bringing the hand back by your side, release the foot. Good, from here, let's just roll the shoulders out a little bit again. Big, deep inhale, breath, sweep the arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. And from forward fold, we'll plant the hands. And then we're just gonna press our feet back here, come back to downward facing dog. We'll take a couple of breaths in downward dog, or if you remember child's pose and you want to go into that one, go right ahead. So from our downward dog, we're going to make our way up into our warrior poses. So let's step our right foot forward between the hands. And then as we come up, we're going to sweep our arms out to the side. So bringing the front foot forward, the back foot's kind of coming perpendicular with that. And then lunging into the legs here, reaching long through the fingers. So this is warrior two pose. Good. From here, we're just going to move our arms a little bit. So bringing the back arm down the back leg and sweeping the arm up overhead. Nice stretch through the side body here. Awesome. And then we'll come forward. You can rest your elbow maybe on the front arm, on the front thigh, and then reach the back arm overhead. Good. From here, let's bring it back up, warrior two again. Awesome. And then we'll just turn to face the front here, keeping the hands up overhead, reaching tall. We'll do one more high lunge. And then drop the hands down on either side of the foot and make our way either through tabletop or all the way back to downward facing dog. And from downward dog, we'll go into the opposite side here. So stepping the opposite foot forward, let's rise up. Warrior two, really lunging deep into the legs here. Reaching the fingertips out long. See if you can take a big deep inhale, send the breath deep into the toes. Exhale, sweep the top arm back. Nice side stretch here. And then let's bring it forward. So maybe bring the elbow to the top of the thigh, reach that back arm up and over. Perfect. Let's bring it back up. Warrior two. One more big breath here. And then we'll sweep the arms forward, square the hips, and sink it down into our high lunge again here. One breath here. And then bring the hands forward on either side of the foot. Maybe step back or come through tabletop. We'll all meet in downward dog. Perfect. From downward dog, let's lower down to the knees. I'm just going to take a little toe stretch here. So you can start on hands and knees. Maybe reach back and tuck your toes under. And then just start to walk the hands on top of the thighs. So just a simple little stretch. It can feel really good for the bottom of the feet here. And feel free to keep your hands planted on the mat in front, or maybe it feels good to bring them up on top of the thighs. We'll just hold here for a couple breaths. So one more big, deep inhale breath here. Exhale, release. Then we'll start to come out of it. So come back onto hands and knees, and then untuck the toes here slowly. Maybe just allow the feet to tap up and down a little bit. It can feel really good after a good stretch on the feet. And then we're going to make our way onto our back body. All right, so coming down to our mat here. Let's lay all the way down on our backs. And we're gonna come into a little figure four stretch. So we're bringing the left leg up and bring that ankle on top of the right thigh. So this is a little figure four stretch. If that feels pretty good on your legs, you can stay right here. If you want to stretch a little bit deeper, you can pick the foot up off the mat. And then if you want to go a little bit deeper, you can bring your hands between the legs and grab onto the top of the thigh there. Just giving yourself a little hug in. So whatever option you choose to come into, make sure you're still connected with your breath. So big, deep inhale. Long, slow exhale. Let's hold here for two more breaths. If you want to hug the legs in a little bit closer, go ahead and give them a good squeeze. Exhale, release. Let's bring both feet back down to the mat. Just take a breath here. And then we'll move into the opposite side. So bringing the opposite foot on top of the thigh this time. This is our first variation, our figure four. So if that feels like a good stretch for you, you can stay right here. If you want to come a little bit deeper, you can pick the foot up off the mat. And maybe even reach the hands between the legs, hugging both legs in towards the chest. We'll start to release that foot here, unravel the legs, plant the soles of the feet back down on the mat. And from here, we're gonna lift up into a little bridge pose. So keeping our feet right where they are, hands can be resting down on the mat. We'll go ahead and take a big, deep inhale. And on the exhale, just gonna lift our hips up here. So coming into this little bridge position, lifting our back off the mat. And just holding here for one breath. And release. Bring the sit bones all the way back down. Good. From here, let's give those knees a hug in. So hugging the knees in towards the chest. Really rounding the back here. If it feels good, you can pick your head up, making a nice C shape with the spine. And release back down to the mat. Just hugging those knees in for about 3 more breaths. And then from here, you can release the grip over the knees. Let's come into happy baby here. So bending the knees a lot, and then can bring our hands to the outside of our feet, or even grab onto the big toes if that feels good. And you can pull the feet in towards you. Bend the knees a lot, maybe rock side to side if that feels good. And when you're ready, we'll release our grip on the feet. Let's bring our feet all the way down to the mat here. We're coming into our final resting pose here, Shavasana. So when we come into Shavasana, we just lay flat on the ground or on our mat. Allow all the muscles to relax. So just let the toes turn out naturally. Heels rest heavy. Allow the hips and the sit bones to sink into the mat. Let your shoulders melt into the mat. The backs of the hands can be resting on the floor, palms facing up. And close the eyes. And unclench the jaw. Just let all the muscles of the face relax. Just focus on allowing the entire body to feel relaxed and at ease. And bring your mind back to your breath. Feeling the rise and fall of the chest with each inhale and exhale. And slowly returning our breath back to our natural rhythm. we'll very slowly start to bring a little bit of movement back into the fingers and toes. Just wiggling the fingers and the toes a little bit. And then whenever you're ready, just turning over to lay on the side body on the floor. You can keep the eyes closed if that feels good. Maybe bend the knees. Take a couple breaths here in our fetal position. And whenever you're ready to meet me in a seated position, make your way up. We'll end our practice today just as we started, sitting in a comfortable cross-legged position. And feel free to keep the eyes closed if that feels good. We'll bring hands to heart center. We always end our yoga practice with a namaste. That means the light inside of me honors the light inside of you. Thank you for joining me and sharing in our yoga practice tonight. Namaste.